Hello everyone and welcome back to the Foreplay channel. I'm Bella.
I'm Jace.
Today's video is a review on Temptation Cruise February 2025. So Temptation Cruise is starting to do 2 cruises a year now. We typically do the spring ones. That's the only ones that they've had thus far. And starting in 2025, there's also going to be one in November that we will also be going on. But this is going to be a review of the February 2025 Temptation Cruise.
And we're going to be 100% open, honest, like we always are with these reviews. I said there are some things that this year we did not like as much about this cruise, other things that we thought shined way through. So we are going to give you all of the ups and downs and everything that we really felt about this cruise, what we think could be improved. And so we're going to go ahead and jump into it.
And before we get started, if you plan on coming on a Temptation Cruise sometime in the future and would like to go with a group, if you book with our links at foreplay.com/cruise, that's the number 4 OURPLAY.com/cruise. It is completely free to you. It helps us out a ton. We do a few different activities on the ship specifically for our group, and we build this community. And especially this cruise, this specific year, people in the group are able to create such great connections and become friends with each other. And if you're wanting to have some kind of community on the ship or before getting on the ship, we do a dinner on the cruise. We also do a private meetup, and then we have a private VIP Discord that the people who are in our group go chat with everybody in. And we do handmade gifts like name necklaces and another little swag thing. So if that's something that you're interested in and you're coming on a future cruise, go to foreplay.com/cruise and you can come with our group.
And if anyone watching this was in our group this year, thank you guys so much. It was so amazing, and literally the biggest highlight every single year is all the people that we get to meet through our group, and just all the wonderful people that we just get to meet in general as well on the ship is just always amazing. And so yeah, it really was one of my favorite years that we have ever done this. But anyway, the first thing that we're going to talk about is the demographic. Demographic of this cruise is the youngest I have ever seen. While yes, it is spread, I would say that you still have that 25 to 65 is the big demographic, but I feel like the biggest number of people are maybe that 35 to 45, which is younger. Normally, if you hear us talking this about these cruises, it's 45 to 55. So this is definitely a younger feel, but it does skew on both sides. And so you're gonna have people of all different ages. I also feel like it is one of the most attractive crowds that I have ever seen in a lifestyle event. One thing to note about Temptation is, no, it is not a lifestyle cruise per se. It is an adult spring break. That is how it's marketed. It is not couples only. You can be single as well. And so there is a lot of things to take into consideration with that. But people often worry, like, are all the single people, are they creepy? Are they making people uncomfortable? I would say as a general rule, the people that are single on this cruise, it is more men than women, but we definitely met both. But the men are respectful people. I will say some of them are a little bit uncomfortable, or maybe they'll kind of dance and they're just a little bit awkward, but no one is disrespectful or, anyone that we met personally. For the most part, I would say it is largely majority couples. To us, it feels like a large majority lifestyle. And so yes, while it's lifestyle friendly and not a lifestyle cruise, it is a very lifestyle environment in our opinion.
It's definitely more of that flirty lifestyle vibe versus going in expecting it to be all swingers, if that makes sense. I think if you're going into a Temptation Cruise expecting it to be like a Bliss cruise, it's definitely not going to be the best for you. Definitely think of them as like 2 different types of vacations, 2 different types of demographics.
But not to say that you're not going to make those lifestyle connections, because I feel like we always do. It's just a different environment, and I think it's a fun different environment. It's more of that party type feel, and so a lot of the people I feel like are the young at heart people, even if you're not as young on this cruise. And so it's just a really fun environment with a lot of awesome opportunities to make a lot of really cool friends.
Yeah, lots of lifestyle connections are made. I mean, we play every time we go on a lifestyle.
Usually a few times.
Yeah, every time we go on a Temptation Cruise, we do play. They do have playrooms. We'll get into that later, but it's just know it is not a swingers cruise. It is a lifestyle friendly adult spring break party cruise. Next is length, and Temptation Cruise is 5 nights long. And typically we would say that is enough for Temptation Cruise because of like how much partying and how, I don't know, sometimes with Temptation Cruise, you get tired faster because you're just going, and I don't even know where the day goes. like we're not even at the pool party the entire day, but then it just feels like we've run out of time. So
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good
So
way.
I'm doing so much fun stuff, but I also agree I don't know where. So we said this year we actually feel like if it was 6 days, it
6
might have
nights.
been 6 nights. It might have been even more fun. But normally after 5, I'm tapped out. But regardless, it was 5 nights, and it's a really good 5 nights. So the ship was the Norwegian Pearl, and that's around 2,400 people. I like that size for a cruise like this. It's not too big. You're able to kind of find people pretty easily because people kind of tend to go to the same areas over and over. So a good size ship, and overall, like I said, I really enjoyed that size aspect a lot.
Next, we'll go into how the ship is organized, and we'll start off with the playroom because that is what most people are interested in. So there is one big playroom on Temptation Cruise. And again, like I said earlier, this isn't a swingers cruise. It's not a lifestyle cruise, so it's not everything is centered around play, right? It's not centered around the playrooms or multiple playrooms. So this one just has one. It was, I think, the best playroom. Well, at least one of the best playrooms Temptation has had so far. The first year that we went, they had, and this is my biggest gripe with the playrooms on Temptation the last few years. So the first year that we went, it was their second sailing, and they had like actual beds where there was curtains that you could close if you wanted to. They were sheer, but at least it had some kind of division. And over the last few years, including this year, the mattresses are, I mean, the playroom itself is very nice. There was 40 beds or so, like it was very big. They also had a small area that had one of the crosses for it to be a kink room, and that was really cool. It was really neat to have that. They had some toys there as well. There was also a bunch of towels. They had protection. They had all of those kinds of things that you would need to be safe in the playroom. There was also security there, and people were changing the sheets often. Every time somebody was done, they would do that. So everything was very clean, smelled good. The lighting was nice. It wasn't too dark. It wasn't too loud in there. It was a very sensual feel. The beds are on the floor. So they're like the mattresses, and they're put on the floor, and then there are, I guess, canopy type curtains in a way where it's decorated. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see that there are curtains that, I guess it's more like fabric drapings that are around the entire playroom, which does give it more of that sexy feel, but it doesn't give any privacy in any way. So that is something we hope to see maybe have, maybe change. Like even if there was like an area that had some beds that had the curtains that you could like close or something would be nice. Also, big thing to note is you can only play in the playroom and in your cabin. So you cannot be doing sexual activity out in the open, like in the lounge areas or in the bars and stuff. Like you're not going to be seeing that on like the pool decks and things. You are not supposed to be doing that. So it's really supposed to be contained to the playrooms and your cabins. Playrooms were only open from 10 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. Which I guess doesn't give like that much time for it to be open, but we're not really playroom people, so it didn't like really affect it. We definitely prefer taking that into like a cabin room.
But I would say overall, I said I also really enjoyed the playrooms. I did hear some people say that this was their least favorite playroom, but I don't really know why, because we both thought this playroom was one of the prettiest ones, one of the biggest ones that they've done on Temptation Cruise. So now I'm gonna kind of talk about where the party was on the ship. And so this is one of the biggest areas that people question or have questions about. And so it is on the main pool deck. And I think that this is one of the things that changed on Temptation that I loved the most this year. So essentially the way this boat is set up is there's a pool on both sides of that pool deck, and then they put the DJ right in the middle. And so you could kind of party right there in the middle, but during the day you could be in one of the two pools. You could still hear the music. There was a little gazebo, so you did have some shade at all times there during the day. And I feel like it really made for an awesome environment with partying. I feel like the DJ setup itself looked really, really cool. It looked like very ravey.
Yeah, it had like all of the TV kind of like things behind it, like big screens behind it. At night, it was really cool because they would play these visuals. Some of it got kind of weird, but it was really neat to see that because they hadn't had that in the past. And they had like lasers and stuff too.
Yeah, and they had like the hot tubs were open at night, so people were in the hot tubs during the parties. It was really, really cool, and I feel like it did lead for an awesome, or lead kind of like to that awesome environment for the actual parties. And so there was technically 2 pool party days, and those were the days that we were at sea. But every single day, one day we actually weren't able to get off the boat, and we'll talk about that later, but there was a party that day, it just wasn't like scheduled. But every single day people were there partying, I would say from around 11:30 to around 4 to 5. I mean, some people were there earlier, some were later, but that was the main time of the party. I feel
For the
like
pool party.
Yeah, I feel like it was a really good party. I mean, people were always dancing, people were always in the pools. It just was an awesome environment. And same thing at night. The parties were awesome at night. They started around 10:30, and I would say that around 11:30 is when they got busy, and they were pretty busy until around 1:30. And overall, so they were some of our personal favorite parties that they've ever had on Temptation.
With the area where the big party is, because they really have only one party kind of going at a time, it is really easy to find people. Because if you're going to the party, you're probably going to see them because you're kind of all in the same area, especially with the size and the amount of people on the ship. And when it comes to the different pools, there were 2 pools, like Jay said, one on each side, and then each side had 2 hot tubs. It seemed like one side of the pool, or like one pool, was a little bit more chill and quiet, and then the other one was a lot more lively. I think that this was the most people I've ever seen inside of the pool before on like a Temptation cruise or lifestyle cruise. Usually people are just kind of just like around the edge, but I did see a lot more people like inside of the pool, like kind of swimming or doing kind of whatever. They also had different activities during like the pool parties.
I also really enjoyed this setup because the main part of the party was all kind of in that center, but you could come from almost like the back or the front, and there was a lot of air, like there was a lot of space. So if you got hot dancing or whatever it was, you could kind of go off, and there was plenty of places to sit or kind of talk where it wasn't quite as busy, which I really liked about that. Also, you could walk to the front of the dance floor, you could walk to the back of the dance floor without walking all the way through the dance floor. So you kind of had 2 entrances, which honestly makes a massive difference when it comes to a party like this. And so to me, that was also a really cool thing about the setup this year.
Because there were 2 decks, so during the daytime, there's loungers everywhere, on both the lower deck and the upper deck. And just like with any like resort or cruise, or I mean, and this goes for any resort, not even just lifestyle, right? Of course, people are going to kind of like save those spots with their towels. So I think that's always just an issue. I don't really know how to fix that issue other than, So that is just know like it's something that is prevalent there. It's not easy to like find an empty spot. If it rains though, like go take that spot, and then because in the Caribbean it'll stop raining after like 20 minutes, and then you'll have like a front row spot. That is what one of our groups of friends did one of the days. The playmakers are also awesome all the time, but especially during the parties. They're out there dancing, getting people involved. They're so personable and likable and outgoing and energetic, and so it really creates a fun atmosphere. And having it be on that like double decker type thing where the DJ is right in the middle, it does give that, I guess, more festival-y kind of like feel. Jace mentioned that it was kind of, it felt like EDC, like ED, like the SEA, and I can definitely see that. There were days where we would just go up on the top during the night party and then look over the top edge, I guess you could say, and then it just looked like a party. Like it just looked like a festival. It was really cool just being in the ocean and being able to see that and experience that, and listen to music and all of that.
After party was in a place called the Atrium, which was almost in between 2 floors. And so that's what the after party was. It was a perfect place for the after party. The only issue was night 1, it rained. And because it rained, the Atrium is where the main party was. And so the after party, it normally dies down, right? Because people are in the playrooms or back in their rooms or eating or whatever it is. And so it's not quite as busy at the after parties. And so there's plenty of room for everybody. But on day 1, whenever it rained, everyone was in the Atrium. And while yes, there was room, it was just really tight. And so that's one thing that was nice about like in the previous ones. They kind of had bigger indoor areas. So that party wasn't the most fun out of all of them, but I said weather permitting, you're outside the other 4 nights, no problem at all. But the Atrium was an awesome place for those after parties, but it was just a little bit snug for that main party.
There also was a silent disco 3 out of the 5 nights. That was really fun. It was never busy. I don't know if people just didn't think about it or didn't know about it. I mean, it was definitely on the schedule, and it was at like 11:30 p.m. So it was one of the after parties, and it was so fun. So I do think that the DJs there were just the Norwegian cruise line DJs. It wasn't like the Temptation DJ, so it definitely was like a different vibe. But they had 3 different stations that you could listen to. There was like a hip hop, EDM, and then a top 40. And we made like some amazing core memories during that. Like we listened to Chapel Roan, like Taylor Swift, like those kinds of things that you didn't really hear that much like on at the party, where the music was a lot more of that EDM type of music. There was one area that you could be completely nude. It was completely clothing optional. The whole cruise is a topless optional out on the decks, but there was one spot and it was on the sun decks. It was like the back of deck 14. And this was different than in the past where some ships have a solarium. And some people really liked that it wasn't in a solarium area because you actually got a lot of sun. And so that was nice there. It was cool that they had that option. It was pretty busy every time we went up there. There was like a big shower there and then like a tons of lounging areas, and it was very quiet.
Next thing we're gonna talk about is bars. I feel like that's also very important on a cruise like this. There was tons. Everywhere there was bars. You had bars in the atrium. You had some really fun bars that did like specialty type drinks. We even saw one day they were doing a class about teaching how to make certain drinks at one of the bars. You had bars next to the pool. You had, you know, the Spinnaker Lounge, which is where that silent disco was. There was a bar up there. And so it really never felt like it was that difficult to get a drink to us. I said if one of the bars was busy, you could walk to another one that was not very far away, and usually that one wasn't busy. So plenty of bars. All the bartenders were super nice. So the casino had a bar, so always a place to get a drink if that's what you're looking for. We'll talk about a little bit more later, but everyone does have the drink package on here, which can sometimes lead to it taking a long time to get drinks, but on this cruise I felt they did a pretty good job at getting drinks really quickly.
I think the main thing is know that if there is a long line, you will wait in a long line, but you also have options to go somewhere else to not wait as long, if that makes sense. So yes, if you're trying to go to this one bar, you're going to feel like you have to wait forever, but there are a lot of other options. So if you're able to go and you're like, okay, well, I just need to go over here, then you won't have to wait very long. There are also other amenities on the ship that don't get used that much, but there is a spa. There is in the locker rooms in the gym, there was a complimentary steam sauna. I used that a couple times, and there's never like anybody ever in those. Oh, there is a gym. It was a very nice gym. Also, that one wasn't like very busy every time that we went. Like it's just a lot of the times the cruise amenities don't get used that much. They also had a big chess and big checkers. So it's like that life-size kind of version. They had some kind of golfing swing, not simulator,
it was
but
a
like
swingers
a cage.
area essentially.
Yeah. Not the kind of swingers area I like to use. You used it once.
I enjoyed that swingers area too.
There was a basketball court and there was also the casino. So lots of other things to do if you didn't want to just party and mingle with people.
So next we are going to talk about theme nights. So there was 5 theme nights and 2 theme pool parties. The 2 theme pool parties one was a pirate theme. The other one was a bling bling theme. I would say that people don't dress up as much for the pool parties. Maybe you'll see like a pirate hat, or like for the bling bling when we saw some big necklaces and stuff like that. So,
well, there's like lots of bling bikinis. Like I would say like maybe 20%.
Yeah.
20% of people dress up for the daytime parties.
Yeah. But nighttime, yeah. I feel like lifestyle cruises to me have gotten to the point where it's almost 90% participation at theme nights.
Yeah.
And it's super fun. So there was 5 different themes. The first night we had a superheroes night, which was superheroes, supervillains, which is always just a fun one to kind of interpret however you want to. There was a rock star night. There was a glow night. They did glow night on night 3, which was great this time. In the past, the last like 2 years, they've done glow night on the last night. Everyone was upset about that because Glow Night's only the best party. They always do a really good job of listening to the feedback that was given to them. They changed it, so Glow Night was on night 3, which was super fun. There was a Naughty Wars, which is almost like a Star Wars type theme on night 4. That was one of my favorite themes I think I've seen, and maybe it's just because it's original, it's new, it's something different, but there was a lot of people that had a really awesome costumes. I feel like our outfits that night were incredible.
And we're not even huge Star Wars fans. I was like looking at some forums and some people talking about the different themes, and a lot of people actually did not like the Naughty Wars theme, but I liked it. I liked the space theme. I thought it was fun.
I also personally, maybe we're in a little bit of a different situation because we go on so many of these ships.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of the times they just do the same types of themes over and over and over again. So anytime there's something new that's a little bit more unique, I always personally enjoy it. So maybe we're skewed in our opinion there, but personally, I really, really enjoyed that theme. And then the last night's theme was a uniforms, which I also enjoyed because there was so many interpretations. We were Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. I saw Hooters girls, I saw construction workers, police officers, sailors. There was so many different ways you could interpret a uniform. So I thought that was a pretty fun theme too. But I like themes that let you think outside of the box. And so overall, I really enjoyed the themes. Like Bella said, some people didn't like some as much, but that's not the biggest thing with the cruises. It's just that environment you're in. But
I think Temptation's good about having it be a mix, where it is some that are more of like the more typical ones that aren't difficult to think about. Because I do understand there's people who want to go on these things and they're like, I don't really want to think about a theme. Like, I don't really want to go out and have to purchase a superhero outfit because it feels like Halloween. Like, I totally understand that. And so I do think it's nice that they do have like I would say Glow uniforms and Rockstar are pretty basic. So I think that it's nice that they had those as well as the more unique ones, I guess you could say. Next is drinks and dining. With your cruise booking, everyone does get the unlimited drink package. Now this does include alcohol. So it has like if you wanted to get water, but not bottled water. So some of it was kind of weird because bottled water they did charge you for, and then if you wanted premium alcohols, that also was an extra cost. Like some like bottles of wine, that was an extra cost. Like Red Bull was, and there was a Starbucks on board. And so if you wanted that kind of stuff, like those did cost extra, but the normal alcohol, I guess you could say, like all of that was included, and unlimited waters when it came to like going into the buffet and getting like water, or like just ordering a water from the bar. All of those sodas, all of that is included.
like for me personally, there wasn't one thing that cost money that was a drink I wanted. Like with Red Bull, for example, there was another energy drink they had that was essentially the exact same thing that was included. So to me, it really wasn't a big deal, but I said if you're a person who really needs bottled water or things like that
want top shelf alcohol or premium alcohol, just know, yeah, there is an additional
But also,
cost.
I've never seen a premium alcohol included in any drink package. That goes, even if you pay for a drink package, it doesn't include premium alcohols. That's just always going to be an additional cost regardless of that.
And that goes for like most resorts and pretty much all cruises. We're big like seltzer people, so they had like White Claws and Trulies and some other brand, and they had a ton of those, and that's what, so everything like worked out for us personally, but we're not like huge drinkers.
They had some fun drinks during the days, like the one bar made like pina coladas and different Miami Vice, whatever that is. But they had a lot of fun, like little fun summery tropically drinks.
This is where it comes that we don't drink that much, because Jace is like, yeah, they have these fun drinks. That's just like a normal like drink to order.
It was fun to me.
So yes, you could get espresso martinis. Like they have different drinks you could order that you would typically get at a bar. You could get those drinks. They're not considered special fun drinks. I guess they are to us because we don't drink. As you can tell, we don't drink that much. I do want to touch on coffee. I did not have good coffee. From the complimentary coffee, every time I got coffee, it was not good. It was like acidic, that kind of coffee. So it seems like if you are a big coffee drinker, then the Starbucks package like upgrade probably would be better for you. I believe it was like $20 a day per person, something like that. And you can't like do it per day, but you can go to Starbucks and get things a la carte if you wanted. But just know that like there are things that are complimentary, but not everything is complimentary or all inclusive.
So we're gonna talk about dining. I feel like this is the one thing that we heard from the most people that people were upset about was the dining on this ship. I'm gonna give you our opinion on people who have been on like almost 40 cruises or something now. We have had a lot of very good and a lot of very bad cruise food. To me, this cruise food was fine. It was not the best food that I've ever had. Now, yes, if you had only been on the other Temptation cruise, which are on the Celebrity Summit, this food was not good compared to that. Celebrity Summit had some of the best cruise food that I have had on any of the 40 cruises that we've been on.
Yeah.
Like some of the best food, some of the best buffets, some of the best restaurants. So it's kind of an outlier, to be honest, the old ship, that food. So for me, like the buffet, for example, it was the same exact type of buffet taste-wise is like the last Bliss cruise was in November on Symphony of the Seas. I think that those foods, to me personally, said it's all personal opinion, were about the same. The one thing I noticed is a lot of inconsistency. So some days you'd have pizza there and it would be really, really good. And then some days you'd have pizza and be really, really bad. And so it just was kind of inconsistent at the buffet. Sometimes I had food I really enjoyed there, and then sometimes I had food that was just it was okay. Same with the main dining. The foods that I really liked, I felt like were actually pretty good, but the stuff that wasn't good, it was kind of subpar. And so it was just kind of a hit and miss with the buffet. Now there was a restaurant called O'Sheehan's, which was an Irish pub. The breakfast sucked so bad, really awful. But their actual lunches and their bar food was really good. I mean, I said their wings and their burgers were some of the best I've ever had on a cruise. And so I heard a lot of people complaining about the food on this cruise, and while I do agree to an extent, it is not the best cruise food I've ever had. I think if you've been on a lot of cruises, you'll realize this is pretty on par food. And so we don't go on this cruise for the food. We go on this cruise for the people and the environment and all that brings. And so with the food, yes, not the best ever. Was it edible? Of course, it was good. The one thing I did note is we have a friend who has like a gluten intolerance, and she said that
dairy.
And she had less options on here than previous cruises, and so there wasn't as many things. So if you do have some sort of allergy or restrictions with food, yes, you're still gonna have food to eat, but I feel like they had a little bit less than a normal cruise would. That is one thing I do think lacked in food, but overall, the food was fine. Some of the food was really good, some of the food was not good at all. Pretty on par for a cruise ship. I just think we can't compare it to Celebrity Summit because that is some of the best cruise food you were gonna have, in my opinion. One of the things I did really love though was the hours of the food. The food was open late. The buffet, I think, was like 3 or 3:30 that it was open till. The O'Sheehan's restaurant had food out. It said 24 hours. One section said 4:30, so I don't know if it stopped at 4:30 or it stopped at it never stopped. I really am not 100% sure, but basically there was always food. And you know, on a cruise like this, when you have had a couple drinks, it's late at night, maybe you've played, maybe you're just tired from dancing, food and water is so important. And that was always easy to do. They had water out by all of the parties that you could just fill up with little cups during the day, nighttime. And so that is one thing I did love about the food here, was basically you could always get food, which is not the case on most cruises. And so that honestly makes the food a lot better for me.
There was also specialty dining that you could pay an additional cost for. We personally didn't go eat there. We did hear that it was somewhat better. We did also have a friend who went to the specialty dining and paid for a steak and said it was the worst steak he's ever had. So again, it just kind of depends, right? It's definitely, it's mediocre, I would say. It's definitely edible, but it's not great. It was inconsistent, but I did find things that I enjoyed, especially like what Jay said, O'Sheehan's. I loved all of the food except for the breakfast.
There was a lot of desserts that were really good.
Lots of really great
good
desserts.
I heard
The
a lot
ice cream?
of people,
Yeah.
and there was like some crepes that were really good.
Oh, I did have like a really amazing crepe. Yeah, it's just, so it's really just, I had some awesome things and some things were like really not great. So in the end, I think it does end up just being mediocre, but it's not bad. Like, it's not good, it's not bad. I was able to eat and I was able to get energy and I was able to like have an enjoyable time overall. But don't go for the food. And you got to remember that you're not going on any kind of lifestyle cruise like this to go for like an eating vacation, if that makes sense. So I think if that's like,
Well, it depends what kind of eating you're talking about.
True. If it's sausages
Eating
or
that is
tacos, like
always good.
Okay. There was also a like pool deck area that had different more easy fingery foods, like burgers, things like that. I will say the French fries were always good. I eat French fries like every day.
Accommodations. Overall, I feel like the accommodations were fine. I would say that they are not the nicest cruise ship I've ever been on. I've been on a lot of really worse cruise ships. And so I would say they're pretty middle of the road. The stuff wasn't the most modern looking, but it didn't look extremely dated to me. It felt kind of just in that middle section. The rooms, they are not the hugest rooms, but the bathroom was really big. There was a really nice shower in the bathroom. And so it really was like accommodations that just felt okay to me. It was like the food. There were some things of the accommodations I thought were really nice that I really loved. Something in the accommodations that I feel like fell kind of short. And so overall, I said I don't really have any complaints about the accommodations personally. I feel like I was comfortable. I had a fun time. I liked my room. It was a standard room, and so I know every other room besides ours was either the same or even nicer, and I was totally comfortable in the room that we were in.
I think what makes this one a little bit harder to navigate, like when it comes to Temptation Cruise, is it was on the same ship for like 4 years in a row. And so people came to expect and the same exact thing, but not realizing that. So the very first Temptation Cruise was different than the second one, and they learned a lot of things and they changed a lot of things, even it being on the same ship, right? Because even our first Temptation Cruise was different than our last Temptation Cruise on the same ship. So things do change, and I think that whenever you're trying to compare it to the same thing over and over, it doesn't make for a fair comparison in a sense, like if that makes any sense at all. And trying to take it as a different experience, knowing that there are good and bad things that can come from both. So there are some veterans who go on the cruises all the time, right? I've been on many of the Celebrity Summit Temptation Cruises, and then people were talking about how they were getting tired of being on the same exact ship over and over and over. And I can see how that would get kind of boring. It would get kind of monotonous in a way. Like, it's kind of fun to have it like for 2 years in a row and then like change it up. And so then I think they're expecting something like the exact same, whereas I guess you can put it in terms with like Bliss Cruise, they will change the ships like almost every single sailing. They will change the ships. They've only done the same ship like maybe a couple times. And I think because we've gone on so many of these types of cruises, we go into it knowing that each one is a little bit different. And I think with Temptation, it's just a harder thing to kind of wrap your head around because the guests have gotten used to something. So they kind of saw it more as a resort because they're expecting the same kind of thing. And so then it's almost like you're going to a completely different resort, but owned by the same people. Does that make sense? So I really enjoyed our experience on this cruise. I didn't love the ship as much when it comes to the accommodations and the amenities as what it has been in the past, but I met more amazing people this time. I think the group was better. I think that their activities were better, and we'll talk about that later. So I really enjoyed our experience on this cruise, and I will continue to go on Temptation Cruises. And although it is different because it is Norwegian, I think this was their first year with Norwegian. I hope that they're going to kind of get things more in line to better it in the future.
So we are going to get into activities now. I really enjoyed the activities this year. One of the biggest differences I noticed is that there was a lot of vanilla activities as well as a ton of lifestyle activities, which I love a balance because while yes, it is like that lifestyle environment, that party environment, it's nice to also do those vanilla things. And so I really liked that they had both this year. So we're gonna start at the pool type activities. I'm gonna read some of these because I don't want to forget because there was so many different cool ones.
And these aren't all of them. It's just like some that we wrote down that we remembered.
So we had like a sexy stretching, there was a belly dance classing, there was jello wrestling, beer drinking contests, sensual fitness classes, cornhole tournaments, and just other fun pool games. You had the actual playmakers there kind of getting people involved, dancing. There was so many cool pool activities going on, and that was happening during the pool party days as well as just the normal days. I'll talk briefly about some like the vanilla type activities they had. We went to an origami class, and while yes, if you watch our vlogs, that turned out pretty bad, but it was still a fun time. They had this like diamond painting class where you basically put these little crystals on stuff. They had different just little games that you could play, and some they made sexy. There was like a categories game that was the sexiest categories, and it was led by one of the Norwegian people, but it was super fun. And so they did have just a lot of different little activities that you could do, different quizzes, different trivias that you could also do that were really fun.
When it comes to the vanilla activities, I think because we're going, well, me personally, because I'm going on this knowing that it's a spicy cruise, I was expecting even the vanilla activities to be like a little bit spicy, right? So whenever we did the origami, I thought they were going to teach us how to like make a dick or something like that. And it was like a tulip. Or whenever we did the diamond painting, it was a flower of something like that. And so I think that that's probably like an on me thing, expecting it to be like everything to be spicy. But I do realize how it would be nice for like people who want to go on this and not have everything be sexual. And so that's just something to, I guess, take note of. Just don't expect every single thing to be spicy because it's not always like that, which is a good thing too.
I also think there's so many activities going on that if you wanted to only do spicy activities, you have plenty of time. There's plenty of activities going on to keep you entertained that are spicy activities all day. But if you want to break from that, it's nice to have the vanilla activities. So I personally liked that it was kind of vanilla for that, because maybe I wanted to break from that and I went back to the spicy, then back to vanilla. It was fun to me. So,
and it was put on by the Norwegian staff. And so those are the normal cruise ship activities. And so like we can expect them to learn how to make something, I guess, specifically for our charter, right? But I think it would be nice though if like maybe they had the Temptation staff lead a couple of those. That I think that would be kind of cool to see. Like I would love to learn how to make a napkin folding vagina. That'd be cool. Maybe we should teach that. I'll learn. Yeah. I'll learn and then we'll do it at our meetup. Just kidding. Am I kidding? Let us know. Do you want that? They didn't have karaoke, so if that's something you were looking for, we didn't see that on this ship. It would be kind of cool to see though, so maybe in the future they can add that in. They had a lot of different seminars and workshops, and I'll list a couple here just so I can read them off. Some were hands-on, and those workshops, a lot of the playing turned into you and your partner also like playing in the playroom, so that was pretty fun. You did have to get to these very early though, and line up like up to like an hour in advance, because there definitely was like at a capacity to a point. And so I know that's something that some people were disappointed in, but I mean, it makes sense. Like you can't let every single person go in there, especially when it's like a hands-on course, right? So some examples of the classes are lap dances for couples, full body for her, hypnotic guided sex toys 101, full body and pleasure for him. There were lots of different ones like that, and we didn't make it to any of these, but we heard that they were awesome. I definitely want to go to a lap dance one the next time. Like we really need to make sure that we try and we go to one of these, but it is hard when we go on these vacations, we go personally to make connections, and so doing the classes like isn't at the top of our list, and so we rather than waiting to get into the class, we prefer to do something else. Personally, but I do want to go attend one of these sometime. And Dr. Jess was there, and there was Liv and Sex with Alexa. So they did have really good instructors.
And I did hear that some of the classes that weren't on hands-on did have a much shorter line where you could show up closer to the actual time. And so, I mean, it is, you know, class to class. Like obviously a hands-on class can't have as many people as a hands-off class, because I mean, you just can't. So it depends on what kind of class you wanted to do as well, with how long or short those lines were.
They did have meetups this time around, which was nice to see, because I don't think they've done that in the past before. So that's a good addition. I think they'll probably end up making these better over time, again, since it's like their first time doing it. Maybe they needed to see what kinds of meetups to do, or like how many people were going to show up, but it was nice that they at least offered it this time.
Next we're gonna talk about like the shows. There's one show that's kind of a show / activity. That's Jen Porter. She's been on the Temptations in the past. She is a piano player that sings, and she'll take like popular songs, but she'll make them sexy. It's fun. It's just a place you can kind of sit, have a drink, listen to her play music. She talks to the crowd. She's funny. She's really nice. And so that's just a fun thing that's kind of in between a show and activity. As far as shows go, so there was one Norwegian show, which is just whatever the Norwegian was. We didn't go to that one. Those shows are normally just vanilla shows. There was a couple different comedians, and personally, we went to one of the comedians. We left early. It wasn't our thing. We heard other people say that they went to different comedians and they were laughing the entire time. Comedy is so subjective. I feel like I don't personally ever really like comedy shows, but I know some people love it. So it's nice that they had like 2 or 3 different comedy shows.
I think the thing with the comedy shows is a lot of the times the comedians will go on there and they will do a normal, typical set, where I think this audience wants more of an after hours type of set, like a spicier set. Like they want to be hearing jokes about sex. They want to be hearing jokes about swingers. And whenever they do jokes about that and it's actually done well, it is really fun. But then they'll go into like a more typical like comedian show, and they're not like talking about like the audience or anything like that. I think that's what makes it where there's that disconnect, and that's why we personally don't have the most fun at a comedy show on a lifestyle type vacation.
The other shows they did, one was erotic, which they do every single Temptation. This year, it was actually, it was like the other erotics, but they kind of had some new acts. It was awesome. It's incredible. It is one of the best shows that they do.
And this one was a different cast. So in the past, we've seen like the same cast. We've become friends with some of them, and I was so surprised to not see them on here. But it felt like the same show, but still different. Like there was more of a different little twist. They did add some acts in there, and they did some of the ones that they're like known for, which was really nice. It is like an acrobatic type show. It's like a cabaret, burlesque, acrobatic. Amazing show. I don't know if they're going to be there on the next Temptation cruise though, because they said that they were going to be on Broadway. So I don't know what they're going to do.
But if they do continue to go on Temptation, please go to that show. It is the best show. It is honestly incredible. It's always like packed house. And so they did that show, and they had a couple other shows this year. They did a Temptations Got Talent show, which they had people submit talent audition tapes like before you got on the cruise, and then they selected 4 different people to go up and do the talent. It was 3 singers and 1 dancer who was like a cabaret type dancer. I will say that we, plus a lot of other people we talked to, kind of felt like we wish they would have done 4 different talents. While yes, all 3 singers had different genres of songs they sang, I feel like if they did like 4 different talents, it would have been even more fun. But it was really cool to see like your peers up there doing a show.
And they won really awesome prizes too. So they won like different vacation prizes. There were some, I think there may be a cash prize. So it was nice that it was that participation, and they even won something. That was a good prize.
And the last show they did was a Family Feud, like a Temptation Family Feud type style show. I loved this one. So I really loved this one. They got a lot of people they had them come early and like select people, but they went up and they played Family Feud. It was super fun. It was sexual categories, and it was just a really, really fun show. I will say in the past, they've done like a naughty scavenger hunt. I missed that one. That's one of my favorite shows they do. So I would love to see that one come back and maybe replace like the Norwegian show, but I don't know how all that works. But
maybe that's like too much on like the staff, because that's a lot of things that they have to do. And again, same with like what we were talking about, the vanilla activities. Maybe it's nice to have a little bit of a little vanilla. Vanilla swirl.
But I do think that the shows this year were really fun. I like that there was some new shows, and they're kind of creating new stuff. And I personally liked having people that were on the ship with us be up on the stage, because it was like you'd see people like talking like, oh, I saw you on stage. Like our neighbor was one of the ones who won the whole entire contest.
Yes!
Like it was really fun, and so that was a cool addition this year that I personally really liked.
This Temptation has been cool because like we've been on a lot of vanilla cruises. This has been a little bit more of a mix of what you typically see on a typical vanilla cruise, but with the spicy twist. And then there's also some of the activities that are more normal too, which is nice because you don't usually see that on these types of vacations. So I like that they're going towards that and offering more options and different shows, and it's not always the same every single time. Nice to switch it up.
And there's plenty of spice. Like if that's all you want, it can be completely spicy. But if you want vanilla, like I really also like that a lot.
But it's like vanilla but spicy. Like those shows, we see those on a Carnival ship. Like we see those on typical cruise ships where they do have the audience participation, but then this one is a spicy participation, which is fun. There were also a ton of live music bands, if that's what you're into. This goes into I guess the bars and the lounges. There were a ton of different lounges that you could go to. If you wanted it to be more quiet, you could find a place that was more quiet. The Spinnaker Lounge, which opened at like 4 p.m. and people were never there. I mean, it was maybe like 15 people there at a time, and it was a huge venue. And so there was like the whiskey bar, and there was like a martini bar. So there's definitely a lot of places that you could go to, and some of those lounges had that live music, which is nice. Which leads us into the music section, which was overall fun. It definitely was a party vibe, a lot of EDM. The DJs were good. I wouldn't say music also is subjective, and I do definitely see how this is aimed towards like a fun party crowd, and it's not like all just like sexy music all the, you know what I mean? So I do wish there was a little bit more of a variety. They did have some nights where it was more themed. So on the Rockstar night, they did play a bit more 80s music, but not only 80s music. Some of the sets I do think just repeated, because I know I heard that same Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter, like the exact same mix of how it went in. And so I don't know, but it wasn't like our favorite type of music, but it was fun and it was good. It's not like the best to grind and like sexy dance to, but it is fun to party to.
I wish they just had more of that variety. I wish that they kept the EDM music, but had more of the R&B. They had more of like the classic songs that everyone sings out loud. I just wish it was a little bit more variety, but like Bella said, it was fun overall. So port-wise, we were supposed to have 2 ports. One was Ocho Rios, Jamaica, and that was a nice port. There were some places that you could walk to. There was a bunch of excursions. They always have the vanilla type excursions you can do, whether that's horseback riding or dolphins or whatever it is. They have all those vanilla type excursions that you can do. But this is the disappointing part. On day 2, we were supposed to stop at a Norwegian island. That's like a Norwegian, rented island, however that works. And we were gonna be the only ones there. And so it was gonna be like a spicy island. So you're gonna be able to be, topless there, go to the beach. They had food included. They're gonna do all of this, and it was gonna be just for our cruise ship, which is so much fun. And so we were really looking forward to that, because that always ends up being such a fun time, like those private islands like that. Unfortunately, it is a tender, which is one of the little boats you take to get to the actual island. I've heard that they're building a port there, so at someday, hopefully that's not an issue anymore. But when it gets really windy or bad weather, it's just too unsafe to take the tenders over. And so that little spicy takeover, unfortunately, was canceled. I said hopefully in the future cruises, they're able to do that. I know they plan on this November cruise, they're gonna have that again, and so hopefully we're able to get to that island, because it would be really, really fun. So cool ports planned, but unfortunately the weather just made one not work out.
That's something to keep in mind about cruising. It isn't always everything set in stone. I guess it's the same thing for resorts, right? You can never control the weather. So even if you go to a resort and it rains, like, you can't help it. So it's the same thing with cruising. So just kind of keep that in mind, that the ports can change at any time, weather is permitting at any time, but they do try their best to make the experience the most fun possible.
Yeah, so like when that happened, they did other stuff. It turned into a pool party, and so you still had a great time. We had our meetup that day, so that ended up being really fun. More people could come to that some couldn't have, but I said what Bella said, keep it in mind, sometimes the weather messes stuff up.
Lastly are some miscellaneous things that we didn't know exactly like where to put them in, but Temptation is topless optional. The Temptation cruises are topless optional, meaning on the pool deck areas and like the outside deck areas, when we're at least a couple miles, it's like 2 or 3 miles away, they will make an announcement. You can be topless if you want to be. I would say a majority of people do participate, but you do not have to participate if you don't want to, and you will not feel pressured to if that's something you don't want to do. And if you do participate, it's very respectful. You'll feel safe participating if that's what you want to do. There is that completely clothing optional section that they have in one particular spot we talked about earlier. And when it comes to internet, there is an internet package that you can purchase. I will say we didn't get the internet package this time, but we will say this one people were having issues with because they blocked a lot of websites. And so when you're going on a spicy cruise, you're wanting to, get on like SDC or SLS, and you weren't able to get onto those things. And I know that that was an issue for people because you are paying for the internet, but just know it depends on, I guess, the cruise lines, different guidelines and stuff. So something to think about there. As it is on a ship, sometimes seasickness does happen. I actually didn't get seasick at all this time. I usually have gotten seasick like a little bit. Usually on a Temptation cruise, I think I have like once every Temptation cruise, and this one I didn't get seasick at all. So again, that's gonna vary from person to person. I didn't have one of those like little patches or anything either, but it just depends. It depends on the ship. It depends on the waters. It depends on the weather, all of that stuff. But I didn't get seasick this time, which was a really nice plus for me.
So staff-wise, Temptation staff, amazing as always. Every single person that is working for Temptation is always wonderful. The Norwegian staff overall, I would say, is really wonderful too. I will say that some of the Norwegian staff was not quite as friendly as I am used to on cruises. Not saying that anyone was like rude or anything to me. It just feels like Norwegian maybe doesn't go as above and beyond as I'm used to on some cruises, but I said overall staff is still very nice and friendly and helpful. And then price rise, obviously it's going to vary. You're going to have your interior rooms all the way up to your really expensive suites, and so you can kind of do it at a bunch of different budgets. Temptation does seem to be a little bit more budget friendly compared to some of the other cruises, especially the fact that they include the drink package. One thing that we highly recommend with Temptation Temptation is the prices do change throughout the year. They're not always set. So booking earlier definitely could help you get a lower price. Sometimes they do sales, so those prices are always going to vary, but just keep in mind, usually booking earlier is better. Plus, you have more options for rooms. You're making sure that you get on, not on a wait list or anything like that. 4play.com/cruise, you guys want to come with us. But it really is a recommendation just to go ahead, book early, and that way you're going to ensure yourself you're able to get a room.
So we're going to do a quick conclusion of just like the main meaty parts of this. We really enjoyed our time on Temptation Cruise, February 2025. Although the ship isn't our favorite ship ever, and the food isn't like the best ever, the people, the activities, the atmosphere, all of that definitely makes up for it, and we really enjoyed our time. I think the group of people were absolutely incredible, especially like, I know we talk about it a lot, but with our like 4play group, it has been the biggest that it's been, but it's just having that community and it just building like that, like it was so special to see. So the people and the connections were just absolutely incredible. Demographic wise, we definitely think that it was a younger vibe, younger crowd, very attractive crowd overall.
And like we said earlier, the parties were incredible to us. I think it was my favorite parties that they have done on Temptation. I loved the setup, and overall it was just such a great time. We were already booked on Temptation November 25 as well as March 26, and so we are really looking forward to those. I think it's going to be an absolutely amazing time, just like this cruise was. So I really hope this video was just able to help you guys, maybe guide your decision about if Temptation is right for you or not. But overall, we had an amazing time, and so we just want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like, comment down below if you guys have any questions about Temptation Cruise, or maybe you guys were on the ship, you have something to add, drop it down below. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss me post a video, and we will talk to you guys in the next one.
Bye.